Welcome to another explainer. Today, we're going on a highly visual 100-day chronological journey into literally hacking nature. We've got this absolutely stunning, high-quality photographic and animated transformation that's going to unfold right before our eyes. We're getting deep into the art and the science of fruit tree grafting. So, let's get into it.
Okay, let's dive into this. When you've got an old, dying, or maybe just completely unproductive fruit tree taking up space, your first natural instinct is probably to just grab the chainsaw, chop it down, and start all over, right? But what if you didn't have to? Watching this gorgeous animated time-lapse, it's wild to see how a barren, totally lifeless-looking trunk can just suddenly burst back into vigorous, productive life. That is exactly what grafting does for us. We're going to look at how we can totally bypass the normal rules of growth and just mash the fast-forward button on nature.
Section 1. Giving old trees new life.
The foundational concept here is brilliantly simple, but honestly, it is so incredibly powerful. Instead of starting from scratch, we're utilizing what is already in the ground, an established rootstock. Think about it. Those mature roots have spent literally years digging deep into the soil, building up this massive, powerful network. So by grafting new growth onto that existing base, you are saving just massive amounts of time. Those strong, mature roots act like a supercharged engine, aggressively pushing all that energy straight up into the new graft, making it grow way faster than it ever could on its own. And this brilliantly illustrates the real magic of this biological shortcut. If you take the traditional route and grow from a seed, well, you're looking at years of waiting, watering, and, just hoping. But with grafting onto an established rootstock, because of all that massive root energy, in some cases you could actually be tasting fresh fruit the very next season. It's a total game changer that completely rewrites the timeline of agriculture.
Section 2. The bark grafting technique. So, how do we actually pull this off? Well, because we're dealing with an older tree here, the established rootstock has a pretty large diameter. You can't just take a tiny new branch, slap it onto a massive trunk, and cross your fingers. No way. You need precise biological mechanics. Like in a sleek animated tutorial, step 1 is prepping that established rootstock for the bark grafting process. Step 2 involves taking what horticulturists call scions. These are just the little pieces of the new wood you actually want to grow. In this specific case, 4 dormant scions are carefully inserted directly into the bark of the large rootstock. You're basically taking brand new hardware and plugging it straight into an old power source. And finally, step 3, which is absolutely crucial, is sealing the whole thing up by wrapping it tight with grafting tape to protect those vulnerable new connections. Section 3. Nature's quality control. Now, obviously, when you're working out in the garden, you're not the only one on the clock. Before the final tape could even be tied off, we actually get this great little unscripted moment. Turns out, this tree has neighbors. I absolutely love this charming little anecdote from the creator. Right as the physical graft was being finished up, a resident bee just buzzed right in. Apparently, there are quite a few bees living right next to this particular tree, and she just swooped in to do a quick inspection, checking out the new construction project in her territory. But hey, thankfully, it looks like everything passed her inspection. With the local wildlife's approval officially secured, the grafting tape could finally be completely applied. Section 4. Making the tough choice. Okay, let's fast forward our timeline a bit. We're jumping ahead almost 2 months now. The tape's been doing its job, the scions have been happily feeding off those old roots, and a pretty major development happens. High-quality photos from day 60 reveals some crazy early success. The tree is actually already growing fruit. Now that seems like the ultimate victory, right? But here comes the dramatic pivot. It's a huge, unexpected, and honestly kind of heartbreaking twist for the grower. You have to remove them, all of them. Seriously, why on earth would early success actually spell total disaster for the plant's long-term survival? Why intentionally destroy the exact thing you just spent 2 months trying to grow?
Well, the answer comes down to a single number. 1, as in the all-important first year. Look, it's a really tough choice to snip away those beautiful little early fruits, but if you let them keep growing right now, they're going to severely stunt the graft's structural development. The Scion absolutely 100% needs all of its available energy to build a strong, robust branch framework during this crucial first year. If it wastes all that amazing root energy popping out a couple of early fruits, the branch itself is going to be weak, and the entire graft could eventually snap or just fail completely. Sometimes you just have to sacrifice the present to secure the future.
Section 5. Healing and long-term growth. Having made that really difficult choice, let's move to and see how this builds up as we push the timeline forward another few months. We are now entering the absolute final critical stage of the plant's recovery. The branches have been allowed to grow nice and strong without the heavy burden of fruiting, and now we need to deal with the original surgical site. Fast forwarding to the 100-day mark, this is a huge milestone in the journey. The grafting tape we applied all the way back on day 1 has entirely done its job. It protected the scions perfectly while they fused with the rootstock. But nature doesn't need our training wheels forever. In fact, keeping them on past this point becomes actively dangerous. Because if you do, you run right into the biological dangers of over-coddling nature. If you leave that grafting tape on for too long, it literally starts to choke the tree. As the branch expands, the tape gets way too tight, and that constricts the graft, making it incredibly hard for it to develop properly. And actually, scratch that, it gets even worse. That tight tape ends up trapping moisture right underneath it, creating this perfect, dark, moist storm. That kind of environment is an absolute magnet for mold, and it actively attracts insects that will just rot your brand new tree right from the inside out. Nobody wants that.
So the crucial point is really just knowing when to step back. By taking the tape off at precisely the right time, you're making sure the tree can just keep developing without any man-made interference. Removing that restriction lets the graft heal naturally, giving the bark a chance to harden up and allowing the tree to fully seamlessly integrate those new scions right into its ancient root system.
Over these 100 days, we've watched a dying stump completely transform into a thriving, soon-to-be fruit-bearing tree, simply by plugging it into the raw power of established roots. It kind of makes you look at every old struggling plant a little differently, doesn't it? I mean, if a few dormant branches and some precise cuts can completely reset a tree's entire lifespan, it leaves us with one final thought. What other biological shortcuts is nature hiding right in your own backyard? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope it sparked your curiosity as much as it did mine.